Hey, my name is Travis Albritton, head of content at Buzzsprout, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to use Buzzsprout's brand new advanced podcast statistics so you can keep better track of how your podcast is doing. So the reason that podcast stats are so important to podcasters is that they allow you to track and measure how your show is actually doing. You're able to see which episodes are more popular with your listeners. You're able to see what apps people are listening to your podcast on. And you can see where in the world people are and how they're consuming your shows. And when you have that data over weeks and months and over the course of all of your episodes, you can start to spot trends. You can start to see patterns that allow you to make informed decisions about how to continue to grow your podcast and to reach new listeners and ultimately to reach your goals. So the Buzzsprout Advanced Podcast Statistics are really designed to give you that information in a way that's easy to digest and then make actionable decisions from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the dashboard and walk you through step by step how to use each of these charts, how to use each of these sections, and then what kinds of decisions you can make from the data that you see. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into Buzzcast, which is one of our Buzzsprout podcasts, and show you how we would use these advanced podcast statistics to make decisions about our podcast. So on the front screen, you can see this chart right here. So this chart is mapping the number of downloads on particular days. And so we have over the last 30 days, over 3,000 downloads from this particular podcast. And you'll notice these spikes in downloads. Right? So this spike is a brand new episode. So every other Friday, we publish a new episode. And so you can see in between, there are some days, like on Tuesdays, where we send out our newsletter, our email, to our email list, letting them know about a new episode coming out. You can see we have a little spike there, but really the big spikes are on the days where you publish new episodes. And this is something that you should expect to see as well with your podcast. If we go to the last 90 days, you'll see each of these spikes corresponding to a new episode. And then if you wanted to switch to cumulative, all that this means is it's basically adding up the number of downloads. And so if your podcast is growing at a steady pace, then you should expect to see a graph like this. And then here on the front screen, we're still on the front screen, we have this data as well. So you can see your top episodes for your podcast. You can see the top apps for how people are listening to each of your episodes, and then also your listeners number. So let me go through each of these really quick. So the top episodes is just a snapshot of your current top episodes based on download numbers. Now this number is skewed because we actually have this embedded, I believe on our homepage of our website, so people can see what our embedded episode player looks like. So that's why that number is so much bigger. But you can see very clearly, okay, these are the top 5 episodes by the number of downloads. And then over here, you're able to see the top apps. So overwhelmingly, people enjoy listening to Buzzcast on Apple Podcasts. And then Overcast is actually our second most popular app. So if you have a bunch of people listening in Spotify and you know that Spotify does not support HTML formatting in their episode description, which that would be nice if they'd fix that. But currently they don't. So if you're going to embed a bunch of links like to your website or an affiliate code for a product that you promote, you want to actually put that URL in the episode notes, because then people listening in Spotify can still actually take action on those links. So that's how you would use this information right here. And then the listener number is our way of helping you understand around how many people are listening to your podcast consistently. So we take your previous episode download data, and then we're able to approximately project how many people we would expect to listen to your podcast if it continues to perform the way that it has in the past. So we take your past performance to predict your future performance. And so this isn't an exact number, nor is it an exact science, but we just wanted to give you an idea of how well your podcast is doing and around how many people are actually listening. You can also see snapshots from the last 7 days, the last 30 days, the last 90 days of how many downloads you're getting on your episodes, and then your total plays of all time for the life of your podcast. Now, something that we'll dive into in future videos is these additional statistics down here at the bottom. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher all provide stats for their particular platform. So Apple will give you stats for how your podcast performs in Apple Podcasts, and same with Spotify and same with Stitcher. For instance, Apple Podcasts can show you how many new people subscribe to your podcast after they listen to an episode. Spotify and Stitcher are able to give you demographics data and show you how many men versus women are listening to your podcast or what their ages are. And so if that's important for you to be able to either talk to sponsors or to figure out how your podcast is resonating with people and who your audience is, then that could be some helpful information for you. And so we've added easy links for each of these analytics platforms. And like I said, I'll go into deeper detail into each of these in future videos. So just stick around and subscribe to the YouTube channel and you'll get those videos as well. But this is the front page. So this page will give you a snapshot of how your podcast is doing. So you can just, if you're just checking in every once in a while, you just want to keep tabs on things, make sure things are going the way that you would expect them to, then this is a really helpful screen. So let's go to the episode downloads tab up here. And the first chart that we have here, I think is my favorite part of the advanced statistics, in that it clearly shows you how your podcast audience is growing. So when you look at total downloads, it can be difficult to get a sense of, well, how well is my podcast doing? Because I have an episode from 6 months ago that has a lot of downloads and an episode from 2 weeks ago that has fewer. Am I growing or not? And so this chart here shows you the number of downloads each of your episodes got in the first week. So you're able to go back to episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 and see, okay, in the first 7 days, I got 100 downloads. In my last episode that I published 2 weeks ago, I had 300 plays, 300 downloads in the first week. So my audience is 3 times bigger. That's what this chart shows you. And you're able to do it for the first 7 days. Same thing for the first 30 days. So the first month after publishing an episode, how many downloads did it get? You can even go up to first 90 days and then all time, which shows you the number of downloads total. First 30 days would be super helpful if you use sponsors and you're able to see over the first month how many episodes or how many downloads are my episodes getting. And so here you can see that the oldest episodes was 250, 297, and 327. So not bad for a brand new podcast. But then our more recent episodes were getting 700 downloads in the first month. 599 in the first month. And then this one, which isn't even a month old, already has over 900 downloads. So you're able to see how your podcast is growing over time just by showing how many downloads you're getting from the publishing date to either the first 7 days or the first 30 days, okay? And then down here, if you keep scrolling, you can go into very specific episodes and see even more statistics about that episode in particular. So for instance, this one, which is performing really well, 2020 Podcast Predictions, has 904 downloads. If you click on this, it'll take you to another screen which shows you how this episode in particular is performing. So it will show you your download trends for this episode over time. And again, you can change that for first 7 days, first 30 days, first 90 days. All those same filters still apply here. It'll show you your top apps. And so here we can see that, almost half of people listened in Apple Podcasts. And then also you'll see devices, categories, and then locations for this particular episode. And so we can see that 24 people in Los Angeles, California listened to this episode of Buzzcast. Crazy, right? Okay, so that's what you can do with individual episodes. But then if you're still trying to get a sense of how people are listening to your podcast as a whole, that's where you want to go into the Apps and Devices tab. And so that's the third tab here in the Advanced Stats. And so here we can see in the last 5 episodes, the last episode, the last 10 episodes, or all episode, the apps that people are listening in, what kinds of devices they're listening on, and then the categories of those devices. And so here you can see that our top app is Apple Podcasts. And for most of you, that's what will be the case. Apple Podcasts should be your top app. Top device for us is an Apple iPhone. So even people that don't listen on Apple Podcasts, some of them are still listening on an iPhone. And then our top category is mobile phone. So this is helpful to know that people are listening on the go. They're listening in their car when they're working out. But if your top category was laptop or desktop, that would tell you something about your audience. That would tell you that they are consuming your content while they're sitting at work, while they're doing something at home. And that can be really useful information for you moving forward. And down here, you can see that we break this out even more. So we have the top 5 apps right here. But then if you click this link here, we will show you all of the apps Okay. So this is every single app that has requested your episode shows up here. All right. And we've identified like, I don't know, over 60 or 70 of these. And so you can see that even beyond the first 5, so Pocket Casts is our number 5 app. You know, you see Spotify on here. We've got Player FM. We've got the Embed Player for this particular episode, Castro, iHeartRadio, Podbean, TuneIn Radio. You know, so these are all places that people are listening to your podcast. And so if you wanted to get a really good snapshot and dive deep into how are people listening to my show, this will give you all the information you need to do that. If you keep scrolling down, we even have devices and categories. So you can see that for us, our top device is an Apple iPhone, but our second most popular device is an Android phone. So still a mobile device, which is really helpful. This is one that surprised us, actually. So when we were looking at this data for Buzzcast, we noticed that Apple Watch was performing really, really well. So people were listening to podcast episodes on their watch or through their watch. And so having that data told us that, yeah, not only are people listening to it on the go, but they're like really on the go. They don't even have their phone out and they're listening to this podcast episode. And then here you also see the categories. So most of ours are coming from mobile, and we would expect the same for you. So that's super helpful though, because you're able to see how people are consuming your podcast, what platforms are performing best for you, and then be able to really double down on those platforms. And then listener locations is where you can see where in the world people are listening to you. Where is your podcast popular? Where are your listeners congregating? And specifically, top countries and top cities. So here's why that would be helpful for you. So for us, the top couple countries make sense for us because we're an English-speaking podcast. The United States, the UK, Canada, and Australia. And you can see the percentages broken down as well as the total number of plays. But if you really wanted to, and you click this button, you can see all of the countries where people are listening to you. So we have, not an insignificant number of people in Nicaragua listening to our podcast, which is pretty cool, right? Same thing with cities. You're able to see the top cities where your podcast is being consumed. Let's say you want to do a meetup. Let's say that you want to do a live in-person meetup with your podcast listeners. This information would tell you where to do that. So if we were going to do a meetup, let's say we were going to do 5 meetups around the country, and we just want to have our listeners in, we want to do maybe a live recording of our podcast episodes. Well, this information tells you where to do those meetups. It tells you should be in Jacksonville, Florida, Los Angeles, California, Chicago, Illinois, New York City, and then Atlanta. Those are the 5 spots where we should do our meetups, where most of our listeners are going to be able to come. So that is super helpful. That is super helpful for you as a podcaster to know this information, because now you know where people are listening from, and you can even make reference to it. So like, let's say that you have a podcast where you talk about sporting events. Well, now I know I need to make sure that I'm including sporting events from those 5 cities, because that's going to really resonate with my audience compared to if I was doing, a sporting event from Oklahoma City, which doesn't appear on my top 10 cities, right? So this information helps you make better episodes in the future and really serve your listeners better. Does that make sense? And then we have this cool graph up here so you can just see the breakdown from all over the world. So those are the Buzzsprout Advanced Podcast Statistics. Now, if you have a Buzzsprout account, you get these as a part of your account. They don't cost anything extra on top of your hosting plan. And so with these statistics, you'll be able to make better informed decisions about your podcast episodes. You'll be able to track and see how your podcast is doing, how it's growing, where it's growing, and how to keep that momentum going. So we hope that you find these statistics to be a super helpful resource for you and a tool for you as you continue to move forward in your podcasting journey. We're super excited about these statistics, and we hope that you enjoy them just as much as we do.